You like Trump? Good girl. You like Biden? Okay, good evening. I got a friend of mine, he just can't pick up how to read a bird watt meter. And this watt meter's got three scales. You got the 100, the 50, and the 25, even though it don't say 25. Full deflection will be 25, so you got 20 and W will be 5. So he can't figure out how to read it, okay? It all is determined on what slug you got it in. Alright, say a 5 watt. So you go up here to the scale, you got a 5 watt in. So you go over here to the 50 watt scale, which would be, on this full deflection would be 5 watts. So all the way over would be 5. And if it was at the 40, it would be 4 watts. 3 would be 3 watts. 2 would be 2 watts. 10 would be 1 watt. And then half of that mark there, it's find something to point with the pencil. This mark here would be the 5 watt. I mean a half a watt. So you got half, 1, 2, 3, 4. Full deflection would be 5. Alright, if you took this slug out and you put a 250 watt slug in. Alright, so you got 250. So what scale would be that one? Would be the top one. So the full deflection will be 250 watts. So if you put a 25 watt in, it'd be full deflection would be 25 watts. That'd be the top scale. So 5 watt, 10 watt, 15 watt, 20 watt. So this is a 250. So that would be 50, 100, 150, 200, and all the way over be 250 watts, all the way over here. All the way over here will be 250 watts because you have a 250 watt slug in. And let's say you take that out and you put a 500 watt slug in. Now what scale are you going to read then? Well, it's got a 5 in it. You're going to read that middle scale. So half of that would be, what's half of 100? 50. So 50 would be there. And this would be 100. 200, 300, 400, all the way over 500. Okay, you take a 50 out, so you put a 2500. Okay, 2500, you go back up to the top scale, because that would be 25 with some zeros off of it. So same thing, full deflection would be 2500, 2000, 1500, 1000. In between that would be like 750, 500. In between that would be 250, and so on. So it's that. And this little thing here, he's got that flipped, and he's got it around like that. It's supposed to be around here like this, and it'll click. It's spring loaded. It'll click. up there. If it's sitting there, it's not right. Slug won't go in. You got to click it up there, and that little tab will catch it, and it should hold it up there. So that's up, so you can put a slug in. And when you put a slug in, these are so tight they get air in between them, like a suction cup. You pull it out, you can feel kind of a little suction on it. But putting it in, air gets pushed in with it. But anyways, that's down. This one, you can pull on it and turn it, and it'll pop out. And when it's down, you can click that in. But you can just pull up on it and turn it, and kind of catch your finger on it, and it'll pop out. But it's a spring loaded, it won't hurt nothing. It's spring loaded there. I don't know if you can see that moving, but it's spring loaded. And sometimes these little contacts in there get dirty, and you have to clean them. And these little contacts here, you have to clean them. But this reads in forward and reverse. It all depends on how you got it hooked up. Okay, the way this one's hooked up, the antenna's here. Back it out. The antenna's on this side. But if I want to take this out and put the antenna over here, you turn this around this way, and it shoots the signal this way to the antenna. It reads out. So that's reading forward if the antenna was over there. But the antenna's over here, so you turn around that way, and it reads out the power going out to the antenna. But say I switched them, and put the antenna over here, and put the radio on this side. Now the slug, because it's pointing towards the radio coax, it's reading in reverse. And if you turn around this way, it's reading in forward again. It don't matter how you hook this up, it all determines on where you got that slug. You understand? It all determines on what side you want to read. If you want to read forward, forward would be out the antenna. Let's say you're pouring water out of a hose pipe, and you got a hose pipe, brand new hose pipe, just hooked it up, and the other end of it, the water's flowing out of it just as free as it can be, and you put your finger over the end of it, the pressure builds up in it, but don't no water get out. Well, let's say you got reflect power, which, you know, SWR coming back towards the radio or the other driver amp or whatever. You don't want it backing up. You want it free flowing going out the other end. So take that water hose and you put a needle through it, and then you go out to the end and you put your finger over it again. All that pressure builds up and it goes out that hole that you just put in there. But you let off of it and all that goes free. It just flows out that pipe. But this is kind of like a hose pipe that's backing up, got that little hole in it. You're trying to stop the leak. You're trying to stop the reflect power from coming out of that hole you just put in that hose. It's pretty much the way I can explain it to somebody that don't know. Which is a lot of y'all out there do know this, but some people just don't. And that's the honest way I know how to explain reflect power. And some people don't understand that this will read SWR. But it reads SWR. You don't have to calibrate it. You don't have to do anything like that. It'll read SWR in reverse wattage. So let's say I got an antenna, it's not tuned very well. Let's say you put a let's say you just starting out and you don't know what it's going to do. You take a 250 watt slug or 50 watt slug. Surely it ain't a 250 watt enough to reflect. 250 watts reflect, do something wrong. especially when you're only putting out, say, up to say 100 watts or so, and you getting 250 back is bad. So you would have to adjust your antenna to where this goes down to nothing. You have to raise or lower your antenna, key it, see what it does. If it's still showing over here, you just adjust it again, and say if it starts out 250 and it just sets at 250 watts, and then you do an adjustment to it, it comes down to 200. Well, you're going the right way. Adjust it, like let's say down. You adjust it down, and it goes down to 100. And then you adjust it again, it goes down to 50. Then you adjust it again, and it comes over here to these spots, the lower 10 watts or so. Then you take your 250 out. You can say you put a 5 watt slug in. You done got it down that low. You put a 5 watt slug in. And of course you turn it in reverse. Reflect back. The antenna's this way. You're trying to see what the wattage is coming back. Not going out. Of course you got 5 watts going out. You're putting 100 watts in. Of course you don't have 100 going out. So you're trying to figure out what's coming back. And you want it as low as possible. So you put a 5 watt slug in, so you done got it low on your 250 watt slug, your 50 watt slug, whatever it is. The more wattage you put out, the more reflect you're going to have. Okay, let's say you've got that 5 watt slug in. And I just took my antenna apart the other day. And I put it back on somewhat the mark, but it's off a little bit. I need to do a little tuning on it. And this one's like kind of high on 40. But it's not that high. So on channel 40, I'm going to do it on that one and show you the reflect power on channel 40 on my antenna. This is just radio. Turn my variable power on my radio wide open. So I'm dead keying about, let's see. Let's get it down to about 5 watts. You got a bad piece of coax or something? Oh, the end went tight. Tight ends! So, let's get it to where it says 5 watts. Alright. It's 5 watt dead keying forward. So you turn it in reverse. And like I said, this one's a little high on 40. I need to do a little adjusting to it. And where I take it apart, it don't take but a little bit. I take it to like the 5th element down and take it apart. So it don't take much there and adjust it on the end. But that's neither here or there. So channel 40. That's just radio. See it moving it? Hello! Alright, that's on channel 40. Alright. So go down to channel 1. Channel 1. Hello! See, it's pretty good on 1. It don't even move. Alright, let's introduce some power to it. I'm going to turn my amplifier on. So, 2-pill. And I'm going to put, let's put a 100 watt dead key in it. Let's get the meter to 100 watts. Be right there, because 250 watt scale, you're reading that top scale. 10 should be 100. Turn my variable power. 100 watts. That's dead key and 100 watts. Hello. Volume's down. Hello. Hello. Alright, 100 watts. About all an amp will do RMS anyway. Hello. It's showing 400 peak up yonder. Alright. So I got that on wide open. So let's take the 250 watt out. And we're trying to get the SWR down as low as it'll go. Alright. So that's a 5 watt slug. You want to get it as low as possible. 100 watt dead key goes up there. The 2 mark. Alright, go to channel 40. Channel 40, about 1.5 watts. Oh, about 1.5 watts. Alright, come on down. And this thing was resident at about 16. Now it's about 9. Need to do a little adjustment on it. Alright, 9 where it shows good. Actually, let's see. That's 3 marks. 6. 2 marks. It's about on 6. 5. A little better. 4. Oh, a little better. So it's down the band. I need to go up. So I got a little adjustment on it. But that's with a 100 watt dead key in it. And I think it's tuned out pretty damn good. Hello. Alright. Let's go even better than that. Take a 5 watt out. Put a 1 watt. That's 1 watt. Put that in. Of course, if you do it that way, it's going to slam it because it's putting out more than 1 watt. So, 1 watt slug. It's at the 5. So that's 1 watt full to flex. So you're going by the 100 watt scale there. So full thing would be 100. Half would be right up in here, in between the 2 and the 325 or so would be half. So down here it's let's say 1/4 of a watt. 1/4 of 1 watt reflect. Let's go down to channel 1. See, it starts going up. So it's more resident at like channel 4 or 5. Let's try channel 3. Alright. 4. 4 is looking a lot better. 5. Channel 5 is a little bit better. 6. A little bit better. 7. A little bit better. 8. Even better. 9. 9. I think it's going to start going up from here. 10. Yeah, it started its way back up. So 9 is the happy place for it. And that's with 100 watts. Going in at dead key. And that's with 1 watt slug, and it's doing pretty damn good. Oh. So yeah. I need to do a little tuning on the antenna, but yeah, that's how you read it in Reflect and get it down. Just put a carrier out there of say 100 watts or so. Of course, if you're talking a lot more watts, 10,000 or so, and you get it down to that with 10,000, that'd be amazing. But I don't think you're gonna ever get that. The more you do, the more you're gonna have. Just remember that. So with say 2,500 watts, if you get a 25 watt reflect, I don't think it's too bad. I don't know, but less is better when you start checking that out. But I'm just giving you a reference what to look for. So 0 is better when you're doing this in reflect. Of course, going out, you know, it's going to slam it because it's doing 100 watts. Take this back out. Put 250 watt slug back in. You're still going to see, you should see a 100 watt right at it. 100 watt. Show it again. I'm dropping a little bit, but let's check it on 500. 500, where should it show? You're reading that middle scale, so it should show right where that 10's at. There you go. Alright, take that out and say 2500. You only get, you're reading that top scale. Half of that is 250, so 25, 50, 5500. Let's see. So you should be that second marker. So yeah, it should be 100 watts, and it is. And this is not in peak. This is an average. You can do it in average watts. You ain't gotta have a peak hit in a meter or nothing like that. You're just checking it on average. So hopefully this explains something to some people. And like I said, this little dot's got to be over it. If you got a dual line section with 2 of them in it, and you take one slug out, and you got the other one sitting down and it ain't locked down, when you go to push this one in, the air that pushes this one in, I push that other one out. What happens when you push on something like it pushes that air in and it pushes the other one out. So you got to make sure that other one is locked down in a dual line, because if you don't, it'll push that slug out too. And that's what he was doing. He's got a dual line section, and he had them sitting in here like this. And of course, like, he was probably had it like that, and it wasn't going all the way in. But it's not like that. You take it, flip it around, and it goes up on that little perch, I guess what you call it. And then you put your slug in. When you put your slug in, you can lock it. It's got that little groove around it. It locks in that groove and keeps it from pushing up. And this element just hits that ball down there. That ball that's running through here. And that element sits down there, and that little there, and it's like a resistor in here. Potentiometer, resistor, somehow or another. It does its thing and reads what it's supposed to through that, or relative measurement. And just because you got one slug reads this, the other one, so if you got two 2500s, they're not going to read the same. Not even if you had them calibrated, they're not going to read the same. So there you go. I hope this helps somebody. But reflect is all depends on how you got your coaxes hooked up and how you got your element turned. This element, slug, whatever you want to call it. But you know, once it locked in, it's reading up against that. So it all determines on which way you want to read it. Reflect would be SWR. Read this way would be your output power. I hope you understand that and how to read one. I hope it's helped somebody learn how to read a bird watt meter. It seems kind of crazy for me explaining this to people that know, but it's people out there that just don't know, and they're so scared of these meters because they don't understand. And these are remote watt meters. You take take the back off of it, take these two screws out, and this line section will screw out, or come out. And when you do that, you can take this. It's got some coax wrapped around it. Some of them do, some of them don't. All depends on who's been in it. But it's got, most times got some coax wrapped around it. And that coax, the thing about this, you could take this line section and you could run it out 50 foot on the other side of the house or around the house. And I'm sure it's going to be a little bit of voltage breakdown, but for the most part, it should read the wattage even at 200 feet from this meter through that wire. That's all that does is run this meter. And like a dozy watt meter or something other, like a trucker one. So you got to run your amplifier here, and you got to run the coax from that all the way up out to the front where your meter's at, and then all the way back. So that all that extra coax is more SWR you can have hiding in that coax. But with this, you can take the line section out of this, put it back in the back of your truck or run it around the house and hook it up to the amplifier, and it shouldn't be much drop in between where this is at and this meter. So it's remote, but it's not Bluetooth remote, wireless, or nothing like it. It's got a cable run, but you just don't see any SWR in between this and like you would say a dozy. A dozy, you got to introduce whatever length it takes a coax to go from your amplifier in the back of the truck, say 18 feet, up out to the front, and then you got to go another 18 feet back. And it's like an amplifier. You hook up an amplifier in your car. So this is your amplifier. And you run a ground wire to it, and you run a hot wire to it, and you got 18 foot run of ground, and you got 18 foot of hot. Well, to cut that distance down, you take your ground wire and you ground it to the body and to something in the truck's good ground, and you cut that distance in half. You can still have that wire run up out to it, but it's going to see the ground first. So instead of seeing 18 and 18, 36, you're going to cut that in half. You'll only be running the hot line, and then it's automatically grounds out there, but you got a ground wire run back just to make sure, but it more or less it canceled out right there the way I see it. And you will see more out of it. You got to think it's got to make a loop. It's got to come from the source with the battery. So this is the battery. It's got to come from the battery, go to the amplifier, and then come back to complete through that loop. If you got a hot, run to here, and then a ground, run to here. And then he's running 2 batteries. He's wanting to run, and he thinks this is going to work, but believe me, I know, because I've tried it. He's got a 12 volt and a 6 volt. And he's got a 12 volt. And 6 volt. And this is the hot, positive side, negative side, negative side. Alright, he's going to take the negative side and go to the, let's see, the amplifiers here. Go to the negative on the amp. And then he's wanting to tie the hot and the ground and make 18 volts, which it'll be a little bit more than that, but and then he's wanting to go from there and go into the amp and have his 18 volt. Well, it will have that, but then he's going to take his alternator. He's got a MacMan alternator, and he's going to try to charge it. So he's going to try to go with the negative here and the positive here to his alternator. And it will pull off the alternator, because this here, you done lifted the positive side and put it to the negative side on this, and so it's feeding through these. This one can't charge because it ain't got a ground. This one has no ground. It's the ground, the hot is run to the ground here, so there's no ground to charge it. And then the hot has nothing to go to because it goes to the 6 volt. I guess that's the way that's the way I understand it to be. It won't charge through it. It's like if you take 9 volt batteries or 1.5 batteries and you take them out of your remote. You got 4 of them in there. And to charge them, you put them in one of these chargers. One of these chargers to charge these batteries back up. You got to have all your hots up here and all your grounds down here to individually charge all these. So you got all your hots up here and all your grounds down here, and it charges this. But you can't charge them like that. I've tried it. I had my truck. I had a 12 and a 6, and for a little while, and I had a 6 volt alternator. And I just had my 6 volt run to here, and of course ground was chassis ground. And when I was pulling off of it, it would pull off that alternator. And he's trying to charge it with putting a hot here and a ground here, and I don't know. I just know that won't work. I don't know the terminology of learning that stuff, but it ain't got a ground to charge the 6. It ain't got a hot to charge the 12. It won't go through there and charge it like it. It will, alternator maintains voltage. It does not charge the whole time. Some people think that an alternator, once you hook it up, hook it to your car, it charges the whole time. It don't. It cuts off. When it senses, when the voltage drops to say 12 point, mine drops to 12.7. When it drops to 12.7, the alternator comes on and it charges up to 14.7, and then it shuts off. And I go down the road and drive and drive and drive, and if you ain't got nothing running, hell, it might as well go 20 miles before it pulls enough out of the electronic ignition and all that stuff. If you got your radio going, windshield wipers, it'll pull down more. Lights on, all kinds of things. It'll pull down quicker. But say I drive 2 miles, it don't come back on till it comes back down to this voltage, the cut-on voltage, and then it goes back up, it charges it to that, and then the alternator shuts back off till it gets back down to cut-on voltage, and then it'll charge back up, and then it'll cut off. It don't charge the whole time. Back in the old days, you used to have generators on cars, and you'd leave from, say, North Carolina and drive to Washington, D.C. That battery would boil over. Or say you drive from Greensboro to Charlotte, the battery would boil over because that generator sitting out putting power to it the whole time when it don't need it, and it's putting out a high voltage on that battery, and that battery just sits there and gets hot. And that's the reason they invented alternators. If that explains something to you, I hope it helps you out, and hope that you get something out of it. That's what I know. I might be wrong. You don't never know. I am stupid, but that's somewhat how I see it. If y'all see it different, put it down in the comments. I might be wrong about all of it. I don't know. But as far as I see it, the way I see it, that's the way it works. And it's the way this works. Take it with a grain of salt. Everybody don't see things the same way, and that's what makes America America. At least that's what it used to be. Nowadays, a man is a woman, and a woman is a man, and all this other shit going on. But there it is. To the best of my knowledge, I just told you what I know. Hope you get something out of it. If you don't think too much about it. You ain't got to watch the video again. So, alright then. Later.